Jesus gave a parable about the guy who's possessed and he's delivered. He stays empty, though. He doesn't get filled with God. And so the spirit comes back bringing 7 other spirits, and they repossess the man. And Jesus said his end is worse than the beginning. But people think, okay, that's about a guy. He says, no, so it will be with this generation. It's not just people. Here's the warning, and here's the big thing, is that, Western civilization originally was filled with the gods, and it was pagan. And that means it was filled with the spirits. But the gospel came in, and the gospel drove out the gods, and drove out the spirits. So it's the only civilization that's been exorcised, in a sense. That's what makes it unique. But the warning from that parable is that any nation or any civilization or culture that has known God, been delivered, been known the gospel, if it should empty itself of God, then that which was cast out of it is going to come back into it. And so that's what we've been witnessing in America. You could call it a repossession. And it's not just general, it's exact. Because one of the things in the Return of the Gods is that you can actually identify, it's called the Dark Trinity, identify the ancient gods and goddesses that are actually behind what we are all dealing with right now.
Yes. And I feel like you're talking about on a macro level in a sense of like an entire nation, but it's made up of individual people who have their own pursuits. I know you went into Nietzsche and Dionysus. Yeah. I think what you just laid out and the idea of the gods returning in mass, I think there are people who are actually trying to make this happen. And we can talk about anywhere from the governmental level down to the individual level. And I'll just give you an example right now that I'm pretty sure you probably don't know about. There's a docuseries that it started out with these people got this really weird email, and it was signed by a supposed alien. So they go on this chase of trying to track down this bizarre story in Ohio. It takes them down into Kentucky, and it's an entire series. And at the end of the series, the last thing they do is they find themselves in a cave in Kentucky where they're doing a ritual trying to summon and resurrect the ancient god Pan.
Is this a story, or
no?
Is
This
this
is 100%. Like it's
a documentary.
Yeah, you could watch it.
Okay.
And it came out several years ago called Hellier. And the interesting thing about that is it kind of mirrors Nietzsche in the sense that Nietzsche, from what I understand, his father was a pastor. And the guy who was doing this with his wife, he married a witch, but he came from the faith. His father was a pastor, and he's divorced himself from the faith. Yes. And so it's like when you remove yourself from the faith and you remove God out of your life, you do open up that door for many things to come in.